In the movie The Thing from 1982, the alien that plagues everyone else was discovered to have crashed on Earth. The question is, why? I think what makes things so much more frightening is the idea that the monster from the Thing movie was not the original owner of the ship. Now, look at the intro to the 1982 movie. We see this spaceship wobbling around, looking as though it's completely lost control, or the pilot has lost control. Just happens to go by Earth, gets caught in the gravitational field of Earth, and crash lands on the planet. For something with this kind of technological advancement to be able to have a spaceship to go across the entire chasm of space, why would it suddenly lose control? It was probably by chance that this creature was passing by or doing whatever it was doing, and it got knocked off course. Why did it get knocked off course? Because maybe the last planet it visited, or whatever was on board with it, killed it, assimilated it, and took control. And because the creature had either not finished the process, or just didn't know how to work the ship for whatever reason with its memories, we surmise that the ship crashed for that reason. Now, here's a possibility. It could be that this specific spaceship has the ability to warp, and as it was losing control of the ship, it was just warping a whole bunch, possibly hitting or initiating a whole bunch of commands just in a wild frenzy while trying not to get killed by this thing. As this other extraterrestrial victim was losing control, eventually he or she or it gave up and could no longer control the ship while the monster was morphing into it. The last place it warped, and now the ship is no longer in control, was within our solar system, and that's what caused it to crash eventually to Earth. Next plan was that of survival, taking the form of whatever organism was closest to it at the time. But we have to remember that the 1982 movie is in fact the sequel to the events that happened. 2011 movie, this is what they see. So the dog that we saw in the first movie was actually not the first thing. At least that's what they wanted us to think when the movie came out. But in fact, this creature had already come from another facility. When it crashed, it was probably in the middle of morphing into whatever that alien was that was controlling the ship, and it never got around to it because it got frozen. It's possible that because of the cold, extreme temperatures, that the morphing or assimilation process is a lot slower. One other thing I wanted to add after this video is that in the 2011 The Thing movie, I think we saw the alien crawl outside the ship. Not see it crawl outside the ship, but it was found outside the ship. And we're wondering, why was it outside the ship? Remember, this alien creature, whatever it is, does not like extreme heat nor extreme cold, especially fire. Fire is a way to kill it. So it's possible that the ship was on fire as it was ripping through the Earth's atmosphere because of the sheer friction, and that made the ship incredibly hot. A lot of things probably melted in it. You know what kind of technology the original alien had, and because it was extremely hot, the Thing decided to crawl outside the ship into the snow to get some relief, and then it froze because it was extremely cold. Just thought I would add that in. In this clip on YouTube from The Thing 2011, we can see that this creature looks unlike anything that we have on Earth. Maybe it looks like some kind of bug or lobster. As it bursts from the ice, it is surprisingly big, which is applicable for the spaceship that it had. Maybe in that form, it had in fact finished the process, or was just about finished, turning into whatever was controlling the spaceship, but that's not in fact what it originally had looked like. Remember, that spaceship wouldn't have just crashed on its own. Somebody to lose control of his spaceship in space, there has to be something going on. And judging from the fact that this is a creature that can feed on whatever it comes to contact with and look exactly like this thing, seemingly erasing all evidence that the previous host that it took control of and turned into ever existed, then it only stands to reason that the owner of the spaceship got consumed by the Thing monster, and that's why we don't see a pilot for that spaceship, because that monster from the Thing in fact turned into what the pilot was. In The Thing 2011, we never get to really see what that is. We just see the remnants of it from all these tentacle and spider-like legs. We never get to see what the original form of the alien that was in fact the pilot of the spaceship looked like. I just had a very sick thought. You know, Pilot from Farscape? It would be hilarious if it was actually him who was the original alien of the spaceship, because, you know, Pilot, never mind. That's why I stand by the theory that the alien is not the one who had piloted the spaceship. Or rather, this monster was not the original owner of the spaceship. And that opens up so many other questions because, okay, so the alien was just something that happened to be on board, or that the actual pilot, the original pilot, had on the ship accidentally. Maybe it got loose, maybe it didn't know it was on the ship. But then what was the actual alien who was the original alien who was the actual owner of that spaceship? See, there's so much that we can glean from this. There's a bigger universe to the Thing franchise because it means there are other aliens out there. It also begs the question, what was the original form of this creature? Maybe this creature is like the black goo from Alien. But for fun's sake, what if there's a theory out there going around, and we're gonna propose it right now, that there could in fact be a crossover universe where another movie or franchise could possibly explain the origins for this creature, like the original form. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, I started reading the book, I didn't finish. Maybe it was so long ago when I was a little tiny kid when I read them, because I used to read a lot of books back then when I was like 5, but I don't remember much of it. Was there an explanation in the book as to what the creature originally was or looked like? Other than that, for all you know, it could look like the black goo stuff from the Alien movies. The stuff responsible for corrupting life and getting into things and turning them into all manner of different forms based on its biological blueprints for life. In a fantasy world, we could have those two crossing over, where it could be a similar origin story, and that thing that was on board was some spore that turned the original pilot into the Thing. It's just a tiny bit different. The Thing, whenever it comes into contact with anything, it immediately starts to assimilate them, whereas the alien has to lay an egg, and then the facepalm thing has to go and facepalm and then rape your face, and then it bursts out of your body. It's basically the same thing, except that for the Alien franchise, the xenomorphs actually leave that husk behind. They don't turn into you, they use your body so that they can turn into your form. When you think about it, it would be an evolutionary advantage for that process, for what happens in Alien with their whole reproductive state, because the assimilation process with this is so slow and you have to be totally alone for it to happen. Granted, you have to also be alone for those facepalm things to happen, but you could actually infect more people with the xenomorph's way. Let's say you have a whole bunch of people that are in a room alone and there's a whole bunch of those face hugger things. You can infect all of them and they won't even remember what happened. It would be the actual person. You don't have to think about whether or not the person is real because they said something weird or their blood is different. Their blood would still be the same. They would still act the same until it's too late. Now, while the Thing has a stealthier way of doing it so that there doesn't have to be a lot of blood and gore, it might have realized that for some reason people can tell. There's a method of being able to tell very easily who's who, and it probably learned from that and adapted based on its current problematic encounters, which could lead to why they reproduce that way. Or, the simplest answer, it could just be a completely different entity, one that we now have to worry about, on top of xenomorphs as well. One thing is certainly for sure, we have a lot more to worry about than just our trivial day-to-day problems if we have more than one alien species coming into contact with our planet. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.